After the deadly war between humans and demons, they banish him from the party for being weak, even though he was an incredibly strong knight with legendary abilities, and saved the world from the demon lord. Being the brother of the hero named Rudy and her most trusted advisor, Red pissed many people off, including a magician and their party named Heirs, so he manipulates Red into thinking that he is a useless degenerate with no skills who can never protect anyone. This really tears Red's heart, so he leaves the hero's party, adopts a fake name, and comes to Zoltan, a boring village where he lives a slow and peaceful life as a D-rank adventurer pretending to be a weakling and living in a small rented room with dreams of opening his own pharmacy one day. Red's blessing as a guide doesn't grant him any extraordinary abilities, but provides him with basic survival skills that help him avoid getting lost in mountains and identify medicinal herbs, but he often questions his worth. One day, while collecting herbs in the jungle, an owl bear attacks him and Red manages to save himself but refrains from killing the creature due to his goal of living a peaceful life away from the hero's party. As he returns, he encounters Albert, an overconfident B-grade adventurer who arrogantly demands that Red guide him to the owl bear. However, Red declines because he is unwilling to risk revealing his identity, plus he can't make peace with Albert's ego. One day, there's a fierce knock on his door and Red opens it to find Gons, a worried elf carpenter who informs him that his son Tanta is suffering from a deadly white-eye fever. On reaching his home, the doctor explains that they lack the necessary medicines to treat Tanta, so Gons desperately begs for Red's help. Red feels the weight of his friend's trust, and despite the risk of being expelled by the Adventurers Guild, promises to help his friend in need and runs towards the mountains. However, upon reaching the spot, he discovers that Albert and his group have irresponsibly set the forest on fire while hunting the owl bear. In the chaos, the owl bear attacks Red again, and his resolve to stay peaceful crumbles, forcing him to defend himself, slashing and killing the creature with his sword. He quickly gathers the blood needles in the fire and rushes back to Gons' home. With the herbs, Tanta is successfully saved, and the grateful doctor said that Red should open a pharmacy, to which he agrees. On his way back, the elf Gons comes running to him and offers him anything in return for saving his son, so Red requests him to build a shop for him, and he gladly agrees by offering to construct it without any labor charges. 4 months later, Red's pharmacy is complete, and he throws a party for the townspeople, expressing his gratitude for their support. A few days later, Red is sulking behind the counter as lost as a stray puppy, when a pretty blonde girl enters the shop and she already knows Red. He immediately recognizes her as Rit, his former comrade and the princess of Lagravia Kingdom, and he almost feels that fate is pulling pranks on him. Red learns that she left her kingdom because people preferred her brother for the throne, and she is working here as a B-grade adventurer. When they sit together for tea, Red recalls his acquaintance with Rit to the time when Hero's party was in Lagravia, and they were drinking at an inn where they first saw Rit's not-so-typical princess moment when she skillfully flipped a bald head across the floor because he was trying to be casual with her, leaving everyone in awe of her extraordinary skills. Rit was always hopeless in expressing herself, but she slowly started getting closer to Red, and one day, she tells him about her investigations about the missing logs of wood disappearances of people and footprints in the village. Red concludes that it's the demon army and offers Rit to work together with the hero party to defeat them, but the princess, being too stubborn for her own good, declines the offer. In one of the meetings with Lagravia's military general, Rit explains her plan of attacking the fortress with a demon army, but suspiciously, the hero party was only asked to defend the castle. But the entire plan backfired when Rit saw that her men were brutally killed and Lagravia's general was standing with the demon army, and it turns out that he is the demon Shazanman who devoured her master and took his human form to conquer their kingdom. The general transforms into a fierce 6-armed demon, and both Red and Rit fight with it until a powerful Rudy arrives to help them. She slashes the arms of the demon and stabs him to death. Later, when Red visits her again, she tears up and blames herself for the people who die because for her guilt is a heavy sword to carry. Red comforts her, motivating her to fight the demon lord and protect Lagravia, and Rit gains courage and defeats the demon lord. After reminiscing about the past, Rit suddenly asks if she can work and move in together in the pharmacy, and Red nervously agrees. The next day, Red wakes up wondering why he was sleeping on the floor, but suddenly he sees a carefree Rit snoring on his bed, and when his eyes linger on her body, he gets flustered and his face turns crimson red. Later, Red prepares breakfast while Rit is asleep, and when she wakes up, they both sit down to have breakfast, and Rit briefs him of the things they have to do that day. After the breakfast, first they go to the furniture shop owned by a goblin called Storm, who gleefully welcomes Rit, and she chooses a double bed, but a shy Red asks her to go for a single bed, and they both call him a wimp. While returning from the shop, Red tells Rit about how one can level up their blessings. Then he continues to think about how God Demis grants divine blessing to every living being on birth irrespective of their education and lineage, But their success depends on whether they can level up, and that can only happen when people kill each other to upgrade their blessing, which ultimately leads to violence. But suddenly, they see a bully is beating the elf boy Tanta, and Red runs to save him and sees his friend Al is injured too, and while he is bandaging his knee, Al tells that the bully is their friend Ademi, who seems to have become more violent these days. Red realizes that Ademi must be blessed with a bar brawler blessing, which is focused on fighting with whatever object someone can get hold of, and how Ademi is turning violent each passing day means that he is on his way to level up his blessing. Red also says that not all blessings are socially acceptable and some can turn people evil. Hearing this, a scared Al says that he doesn't want any blessing, and when Red asks about his blessing, he's impressed to learn that Al has Weapon Master blessing, which allows someone to master any weapon. So Red tells Al that he shouldn't be scared of his blessing because no matter what happens, he will always be who he is, and then asks Al to visit them whenever he wants. Then Rit and Red go to the town office to get their medicine approved, but the person in charge rudely dismisses them. They then go to the head of the town office, and when he learns about Red's new painkiller, he tells them that they are already dealing with an illegal narcotic who is misusing a medicine that was approved a month ago. But he says that since it's a personal request from Lady Rit, he will approve it. They are happily returning home when Red thanks Rit for her help, and she says that she will do anything for him. At home, they both are brainstorming over how they can make a popular medicine that will sell well. While they are having dinner, Rit enthusiastically says that Red should sell food with medicine, giving him a brilliant idea of mixing food with medicine. Immediately, Red starts preparing apple jam cookies with a medicine that boosts immunity and prevents cold. The next day, Rit is standing in front of their pharmacy asking people to collect free samples of their special cold medicine that also cures post-battle exhaustion. Soon, townspeople flock to the shop and buy all their delicious free samples of medicine, making it super hit. Red and Rit are living a comfortable domestic life, and whoever comes to their shop gets a huge shock to learn that the great B-rank adventurer Rit has retired to join someone like Red. Later, while working in the shop, Rit tells Red that she wishes to drink mead, which is a honey-based liquid, but Red says that he doesn't have it, so she quickly runs to buy one. While Rit is out and Red is making some medicine, suddenly Albert enters his shop and arrogantly asks Red if he killed the owlbear because the fatal wound on the creature seems like Red's bronze sword. But Red respectfully denies, saying that a D-rank like him can never do that. A frustrated Albert suddenly puts his sword close to Red's throat, but before he could do anything, a furious Rit comes sprinting and kicks Albert, while skillfully throwing him across the shop. But before things escalate, Red quickly intervenes and saves Albert. Later, Red takes Rit to a local salon owned by the man named Zephs, where Red's friends Storm, Gons, and his wife, Noah, are also present. Zeph worriedly tells them that he might have to close his business because a new bathhouse has opened up in the town, which is more equipped with modern facilities. After returning, Rit, Red, Noah, and her son Tanta are at the pharmacy thinking of ways to keep Zeph's sauna running, and Red comes up with an idea, so they go to Zeph's shop to tell him about it. Red hands him a sack of potpourri, telling him about the unique steam therapy, which hails back to the primitive ways of wild elves, which even the new bathhouse doesn't have. Realizing that he can attract more customers with this, a happy Zeph declares that he will keep buying these herbs from Red's pharmacy and thanks them for giving his business a lifeline. The next day, Zeph's sauna sees a lot of customers, and it's all thanks to Red's idea of potpourri sack. In the evening, while returning home, they bid goodbye to Gons and his family, and then after walking for some time, Rit suddenly stops and shyly tells Red that the reason why she wanted to drink mead the other day was because of a tradition in her kingdom, Loggervia, where when a couple gets married, they drink mead and spend time together. Hearing this, Red realizes that Rit has tried to confess her feelings, and he warmly smiles and says that they should head home, and they continue walking together. In the morning, Rit and Red are busy arranging potions when they hear a commotion outside, and Red sees a tall man with a scar on his left eye along with several others. The stranger introduces himself as Galatine, a senior officer of the Adventurers Guild, and asks Red to let them speak to Rit. Red tells them to wait until the shop opens, and later, when Rit steps out to meet them, a shady man enters the shop, and Red recognizes him from the Thieves' Guild. The man offers Red a precious elven coin worth 10,000 perils to sever ties with Rit, but Red firmly declines and states that Rit is priceless and irreplaceable. Outside, the officials try to convince Rit to become an adventurer again by offering her various incentives. However, Rit loudly announces that she has signed a lifetime work contract with Red and has retired from adventuring, and rushes back to the shop where a grateful Red gifts her an amber bracelet. Seeing how close they have become, Rit reflects on their time together in Loggervia, when she never thought she could be close to Red. They were surrounded by the demon army, and to seek help they had to travel to Sunland, but they couldn't escape the demon lord's heavily guarded area, so Red proposed traveling through the bewitching woods. So together with Rudy, Aries, Theodra, and Danon, they embarked on this journey. In the woods, they met an elf girl named Yanderala, whose blessing allowed her to converse with plants, so she agreed to guide them to Sunland. Rit noticed Yanderala's closeness with Red and felt sad because she secretly likes Red, but Yanderala suddenly comes closer and takes her to the river to take a break together. At the river, Yanderala told Rit she knew about her feelings for Red and encouraged her to express them. Yanderala reassured Rit that she didn't have romantic feelings for Red, as elves tend to avoid relationships with humans due to their shorter lifespans. They continued their journey again, but it was interrupted when Yanderala sensed demon scouts, and it turned out that one of the mercenaries Ares hired was an informer for the demon army. Red devised a plan that he would distract the enemy while Rudy and Rit would break through the demon army's first line. Rudy asked Rit to fall back and then bravely fought and killed the soldiers while showcasing her power as the invincible hero. After the battle, Rit realized she didn't want to come between Red and his sister, so she didn't join the hero party and continued her journey alone, meeting Red in Zoltan by chance. Back in the present, Red reminds Rit of a delivery she needs to take, and on her way back, a bald adventurer named Dur stops her while threatening to reveal her identity as a princess if she doesn't return to the guild. An unfazed Rit dismisses him and returns to the shop where Red warmly welcomes her. She feels content with her decision to choose Red over everything else. Red is at Dr. Newman's clinic delivering the order when they hear a commotion of glasses breaking from the doctor's medicine room, and when Red opens the door, Dar Newman's helper named Jackson is lying unconscious on the floor with froth coming out of his mouth. Red offers the antidote he made from gray starfish, and after treating him, the doctor tells Red that the cause is overdose of a medicine that was recently approved, and they need to prepare more antidotes for more cases. After this incident, Red returns home and finds Rit, who is starving, and over breakfast, Red informs her about the recent narcotics problem in town. They then head to the river where they enjoy swimming, barbecuing, and drinking wine. As they relax, Rit confesses her feelings to Red and gently kisses him while expressing her desire to be close to him. Later, while they are working in the shop again, a severely injured man enters and collapses, and Red immediately tends to him while asking Rit to check outside. Rit runs off to see that one of Albert's men, Campbell, who is from the Thieves' Guild, was maniacally killing the townspeople with his axe, and he tries to attack her too, but she blocks him, wondering how he has become so quick and agile. Soon, Rit is surrounded by many men, and she keeps fighting with them. But suddenly arrows come piercing these men on their head and killing them. When Rit turns around, she sees Albert, who casually apologizes for his members causing trouble. Rit angrily asks him what's happening, and he says he has no idea, and she furiously stomps back to the shop. Now Rit and Red are sitting together talking about the investigations on the recent incident, but Rit feels that it was all because of the drug. Red agrees with her and tells that the ones with Thief's Blessing prefer lighter weapons, and it makes no sense that Campbell was using a heavy axe to kill people. Suddenly, Tanta and Al come to their shop and join them for lunch when an anxious Al tells Red that he has been touched by his divine weapon master blessing. And it made him anxious, so Red replies that it might be because he hasn't decided which weapon to master. Al asks if he can just be a normal person and not use his power, to which Red says that he can do that, but life is very hard without blessings. So Red advises him to learn to use a knife so that he can help his dad unload cargo at the docks by cutting the ropes. Later, a timid girl named Alice, who is from Albert's party, visits the shop and apologizes on behalf of her boss and tells that since Albert has the blessing of a champion, it makes him ambitious and drives him to show his power to the world, but he is fed up with the team members for not living up to his expectations and might leave Zoltan, but Red assures her that Albert won't do that since he is trying to prove himself a champion of Zoltan. Later, during a violent storm, Red offers Rit a cup of warm milk with honey and tells her that he used to make it for his sister Rut, and with the mention of her name, he goes down the memory lane when they both were little children who were staying in an inn with a violent storm going on outside. Red asks Rut if she's afraid, but she declines because she is the hero, so Red pretends that he is scared and asks to hold her hand, making her happy that Red relied on her. She then asked Red to always stay with her, but Red said that he can't promise that since he would have to leave her to become a strong warrior, but he will always take care of her. Soon Red's thoughts are interrupted by a knock on the door, and when he opens the door, he sees Dar Newman with a bleeding and unconscious Al in his back. The doctor treats Al at Red's home and suggests that Al might have been struck by a rock during a storm. But when Al wakes up, he shrieks in terror, claiming that the bully Atomy attacked his family with an axe. Red and the doctor rush to Al's house, where they find his parents collapsed because of blunt force trauma of the axe, but they are alive. The incident causes an uproar in the town because Atomy is the son of Moan, the captain of the town guard, and after the attack, Atomy disappeared, leading to accusations that the town guard is sheltering him. Al's parents are preoccupied with the protests, so they leave Al in the care of Red and Rit. One day, Al asks Rit to teach him how to use a sword, and they start their training. Suddenly, Gans and Mao come running to Red and Rit and anxiously report that the guards have taken their son Tanta without explanation. Rit, Red, and Al immediately visit the guild head to request a joint inquiry with the town guard and seek Tanta's release. So the guild head agrees on the condition that Rit owes him a favor later. They visit the town guard office with the guild head's letter where Moan, Adami's father, and the town guard captain freeze Tanta, and when Red questions the arrest of Tanta, he explains that Tanta was detained for questioning about Adami's disappearance because they suspect that a protester from Southmarsh might have killed Adami. Tanta hesitantly reveals that it might be possible that Adami was not the attacker, since he apologized to him for bullying him and expressed his desire to become a town guard to protect people. This information confuses everyone about the true identity of Al's family's attacker. Moan then asks Red and Rit for assistance in the investigation, and Red questions him about the possibility of Adami using drugs, which infuriates Moan, who says that no one in his family uses drugs. Red points out similarities between Campbell's attack and the attack on Al's family, prompting Moan to mention the new drug seems to grant users a second blessing. Later, while Rit investigates the drug case, Red helps Al with sword training while also teaching him the importance of careful planning in combat. When Al asks why he is so good at fighting despite being a rank D, and Red replies that he doesn't wish to climb up the ladder of ranks because he enjoys his slow life. Al tells Red about a man with one eye who visited the shop and gave him a bright red blade, claiming it was a boon for the future weapon master, and Red assumes that the man is from the Thief Guild. That night, Rit catches hold of the drug dealer, who turns out to be Suicide Bomber, and soon armed men surround her. While she is defending herself, a hooded man rescues her, and Rit recognizes him as Danon, who is a significant member of the hero party. Danon assures Rit that he won't take Red back, as Red is happy with his current life. But as they remove the hood of one of the attackers, they find him to be a stalker demon, which is an intermediate level demon, and it indicates something sinister is happening in Zoltan. So Danon tells Rit that if someday she needs his help, she can find him in an inn near Zoltan. Rit returns home exhausted and snuggles with Red, but doesn't mention her encounter with Danon. Red later asks Rit to investigate the sword Al received from the Thief Guild, and Rit discovers the sword has a locate spell that can locate the one who uses the sword. This concerns Red, who wonders why would someone want to keep track of Al's whereabouts. The next day, they take Al to the swordsmith to get his first weapon, and while selecting a sword, Red hears a commotion outside, so he goes out to see a protest against the town guard captain for allegedly hiding Adami. Red learns from adventurers that the leader of the Thief Guild is paying people to incite the crowd to protest. The next morning, Rit covers herself completely with a cape and goes to an empty alley where the bald adventurer Dur is standing with a few men waiting for Al, but they are shocked to see Rit when she uncovers herself. She mocks them for assuming that she will let Al take their stupid bait of using the sword with a locate spell. The baldy gets furious and asks his men to attack her, but she defeats them. However, she sees another man who was not a human, and Rit recognizes immediately. The demon takes its true eerie form with horns and charges towards Rit. On the other hand, Al is sitting in the pharmacy with a guard when someone knocks on the door, and it turns out to be the same one-eyed man who gave Al the sword. He tells Al that he wishes to make him the hero of Southmarsh and drags to reluctant Al to the Thief Guild. They throw Al in front of the leader of the Thief Guild, who is a hobgoblin named Big Hawk. Big Hawk tells Al that he is not weak like people of Zoltan because he is an outsider born and raised in slums and made his way to the top by slaughtering whoever opposed him. He can do whatever it takes to reach the top and make big changes. Because of this, he has flooded the market with a drug called Devil's Blessing that is made from the heart of 50 axe demons. Apart from the original blessing from God, this drug will bestow people with a different blessing too. He says that Al will be the one who will help them achieve their goal to create havoc in the society, and orders his men to bring someone in. Al sees a bound Adami, and he apologetically tells Al that he wished to become a fine guardsman like his dad, so he took the drug. Later, a massive group is assembled in front of Big Hawk's residence made up of adventurers and unhappy townspeople. Big Hawk leads Al to the balcony and begins to speak to the gathering. He stirs them up, claiming the town guard lacks the ability to catch the person who attacked Al's family. He then declares to overthrow the town guard and stir a revolution, and he hands Al a sword and asks him to kill Adami and take revenge. Al takes the sword but is not comfortable with the idea of killing his friend, so he cuts his ropes, but suddenly the one-eyed man shows an axe to Adami, inciting him because the devil blessing drug causes a murderous impulse when one sees the axe. Taken over by the effect of the drug again, Adami grabs the axe, but before he can attack, Al rushes in and cuts down the axe before anyone moves, defeating the one-eyed man. The figure grabs Adami and informs the thieves they thought they tricked Rit, but he tricked them into believing that. He reveals himself as Red, who hid among the thieves the whole time, and tells Al to grab him and jumps from the balcony using his slow fall ability. Red escapes with the kids and gives Endemi medicine to suppress his second blessing. After some time, an explorer named Bowie, who works with Red, arrives and takes the children away. Red remains behind to tackle Big Hawk, his men, and Albert, who has joined their side. Albert strikes at Red with his martial arts moves and demonic blade, but Red blocks these attacks merely with his cheap bronze sword. Albert realizes Red's true strength and realizes that Red was pretending to be weak. When Red inquires about Big Hawk, the demon speaks up saying that he has possessed his body because he now wishes to be the king instead of him, and Red realizes that it was the demon who was behind everything, and he also took Albert on his side. Then Albert says that he is sick of this slow, ambitionless town, and he has signed a contract with the demon to fight under the banner of Demon Army and realize his dream of becoming a champion. He asks Red to either join him and become a hero or defeat him to become the town's savior, but Red declines, saying that he doesn't wish to be either. Suddenly, the guild's army surrounds Albert, but he doesn't want to go down in history as a filthy criminal and be defeated by Red instead. So he charges at Red with his sword, but Red skillfully blocks it with his sword and cuts through Albert's arm. Red tells Albert that for him, he was always a hero of Zoltan despite his flaws. Later, Boo takes Adami and Al to the Big Hawk's place where angry people are gathered. Boo uses his magic to lift them above the ground, and then Al goes on to tell people that he has forgiven Adami, and they will be friends again, and asks them not to take the drug because of which they'll lose their loved ones. With this, the people realize that it's no longer necessary to keep protesting since Al has forgiven Adami, so they return back home. Later, Bowie visits the demon who has taken over Big Hawk in the dungeon and calls him by his name Belial, and the demon realizes that Bowie is actually the demon general Shazanan, and Shazanan strangles him, asking why he lied to the people about the drug, and if people get to know that the drug can awake their true potential, then things will go downhill for demons. A scared Belial quickly breaks his contract with Big Hawk and transforms into his true form as a goat and breaks the wall to rush to the dungeon where Albert is captured and tells him to wish for anything, to which a tired Albert says that he can do whatever he wishes to, so Belial forges a new contract with him. Ares sees that their airship leaves without him, so he asks their party's comrade Theodore, who says that Rudy has taken off, and she goes in Rudy's tent, but is shocked to see her hero's badge. The airship is driven by Rudy's assistant, Tis Garland, who is a skilled assassin from the Assassin's Guild, and Rut tells her that she wishes to go to Zolto to see a medicine maker because last night the panicky goat demon Belial visited her and gave her the drug demon blessing, while assuring her that they don't want to go to war with humans like other demons, and they worship the same god Demis and seek to defeat Demon Lord. He explained that the drug helps someone level up their blessing by defeating lower-level enemies instead of bigger ones. So Rudy took a huge chunk of the drug since no drug can affect her, and she was impressed by its effect and wants a steady supply of the same. She requests Tis to treat her like a commoner so that her identity as the hero remains concealed. Meanwhile, it's winter and Red have less customers, so they come up with an idea of hand warmers, and Red goes on to sell a lot of samples to their friends, and at night while returning home it starts to snow and Red meets Rit, who gives him a hand warmer to warm, and they share a cozy moment in the snow. After a few days, Rit's airship lands, and Zoltan and Tis renamed herself as Tifa and Rudy as Ruhr to disguise themselves, and they walk to the town bridge. But a stubborn knight is blocking the ridge asking for money. Tishu asked Rudy to take another route, but she goes on to effortlessly defeat the knight while gaining everyone's attention. And she keeps doing things that make her stand out, worrying Tis. At night, Red returns to Zoltan when the gates are about to close, so the guard there invites him for a drink. They go to a local food stall, and coincidentally, Tis also ends up there for food. Seeing her low profile but cold aura and specialized weapons, Red can make out that she might be a thief, assassin, or a spy, and simultaneously, Tis also notices Red's healed wounds, and she can make out that he is a pro because he is a keen observer. Tis goes back to the inn to tell Rudy about Red as a stranger who seemed too sharp and can be trouble for their mission, to which Rudy says that a man of caliber doesn't hide unless he can be a top adventurer, but as far as she knows, this title is currently owned by someone called Bowie, and Rudy doesn't know if Tis is talking about Red. Then Rudy tells that the alchemist they are looking for is held in the dungeon, and they would have to break the dungeon to reach him. The next morning, Rudy is outside, and she gets hallucinations of his brother Red and resolves to find him. At night, Rudy and Tis break into the dungeon and threaten the one-eyed man captured there to make the demon's blessing drug for them, and seeing their scary faces, the man agrees, so they bring him along. However, Rudy wants to heal the man's wounds so he can start working on the demon's blessing, but she can't afford to use her healing power because that will expose her as the hero, so Tis suggests going to a famous pharmacy. As soon as they reach there, Rudy comes face to face with her brother Red and Time, and she smiles from ear to ear for the first time and runs to hug him. Rudy and Red are having tea together, and Tiss introduces herself as his replacement, but suddenly Rudy asks if he is living with someone, to which he agrees and tells about Rit. He learns from Rudy that Ares told everyone he fled, so Red tells her everything from the beginning, and Rudy says that she will deal with Ares and asks him to join the party again because they are incomplete without him, and Ares is useless, while Yandral left the party because she thought Ares killed him. Red apologizes and says that he has already found several reasons to stay in Zoltan, to which she declares that she will move to this town too, shocking Red and Tissy. Then Rit enters the shop, and she too is shocked to see Rudy after so long, and in an awkward atmosphere they sit facing each other while Red serves them tea. He asks Rudy's reason for visiting Zoltan, to which she says that she was looking for him to defeat the Demon Lord together, and secondly, she has already found someone who knows how to do that. She then asks Rit not to worry about Red leaving because she too will move to this town, leaving her bewildered. As soon as Rudy leaves the shop, she collapses because the effect of the drug was becoming weak. Later, Tiss enters her room and informs her that the one-eyed man named Godwin cannot stay locked up any longer because he needs a fully equipped workshop to make the drug, and she says that there's an elven ruin on the mountain that can serve as a good workshop. Then she turns towards Tiss and extends her hand to touch her pet, and a terrified Tiss felt that she will harm it, so she draws her sword in defense, but turns out that Rudy only wished to pet it, so Tiss apologizes for the misunderstanding and promises to take efforts in understanding Rudy while becoming her good friend and comrade. The next day, Rudy tries helping Red at the shop but keeps scaring the customers away because of her solemn face. Then Red takes her around the town, so first they have a good time in Zeph's sauna, where she becomes everyone's center of attention. She apologizes to Red for standing out, but Red assures her that she is someone he is very proud of. Meanwhile, Ares and Theodora are traveling towards Zoltan to track the hero, and Albert acts as their guide, and he feels like he has done nothing to help anyone. Theodora tells him that he was leading them to the hero, and that was enough. At dinner, Red serves Rudy's favorite honey milk tea, and Rudy asks Rit to accompany her to the bath, and Tiss also joins them. While bathing, Rudy opens up to Rit about her beautiful relationship with her brother. She remembers that time when Red saved her from the owlbear when she didn't possess enough power to fight it and save her friend, and she tells that her brother has always been there to help her, but being a hero, her blessing don't allow her to express her feelings at all, which makes her a bit envious of Rit since she's close to her brother. Rudy starts crying while telling how much she adores her brother and wishes to be like Rit so that she can live here, but being a hero, she has to shoulder a lot of responsibilities. Hearing this, Rit also tears up, and Tiss, who is silently hearing Rudy cry, vows to protect her friend and hero. The next morning, Red learns everything Rudy is going through and thanks Tiss for being a good friend she can depend on. Tiss reveals that the contract demon Belial visited Rudy and gave her the drug, which Rit says will make her addicted if she keeps taking it, but Red reassures them that Rudy will be fine since she's immune, but he's concerned about the blessing weakening effect. Tiss also admits they broke into the dungeon last night and that Rudy is worried about angering Red, but he assures her he's not angry. When Tiss mentions needing to buy alchemy equipment for Godwin to make demon blessings, so Red offers to go instead. At the port, Red runs into Danon, who is his trustworthy comrade, and they're glad to see each other. Meanwhile, Ares, Albert, and Theodora are at the port looking for Rudy. Ares goes to check the inns, leaving Albert and Theodora behind, but they spot Danon hugging Red and decide to eavesdrop on their conversation. Danon asks Red why he left, and Red explains he was not good enough, but Danon insists he was always the best fighter and the hero's party needs him, but Red politely declines. Red tells him Rudy is in Zoltan and struggling with her blessings, so Danon enthusiastically vows to support Rudy's choice to give up being a hero. They then leave while discussing how Danon lost his hand. Elsewhere, Danon arrives at the inn where Ares is present, but unlike the real Danon, this one has both hands, indicating he's an imposter. He tells Ares about Red's life with Rit, which enrages Ares, who then goes to Red's shop to destroy it in a fit of anger. Meanwhile, Red and Danon are rushing back to the shop when Danon reveals that the demon general Shizandan is still alive. Shizandan bit off Danon's arm and threw him into the sea, and mentions that the demon is currently disguised as a human adventurer. Red wonders how Shizandan could survive after Rudy pierced his heart, but they suddenly see someone riding a drake dragon toward the mountains where Rudy is, and they rush to protect her. Red finds Tiss and Rit and tells them about Danon, and Rit quickly apologizes for not mentioning her earlier meeting with Danon, so Red asks if the Danon she met seemed different, like with missing a hand. Rit declines, and they realize that the Danon she met was actually Shizandan in disguise, so they decide to face the demon again. Red races to catch up with the dragon and reaches the elven ruins, where he uses his slow fall technique to jump into a dark tunnel and enters the room where the drug maker Godwin is held and asks about Rudy's whereabouts. Godwin refuses to cooperate, prompting Red to twist his arm, which brings Rudy rushing in. Later, a tired Rudy pleads with Red not to hate her for abandoning her party and not wanting to be the hero, but Red embraces her, while assuring her she's free to be whatever she wishes and will always be his precious sister. Rudy thanks him, saying he's the best brother and she loves him. Meanwhile, Ares is furiously shouting at the fake Danon to help him find Rudy. The real Danon rushes toward the elven ruins and is confronted by Theodora and Albert. In the ruins, Rudy explains that the drug has given her a new blessing, which is the blessing of Axe Demon. Suddenly, Tis warns about an approaching danger, which was a swarm of plague eyes. Rudy destroys them and chases their owner, with Red following close behind. They reach the end of the tunnel and find Ares, who belittles Red and urges Rudy to join him to kill the Demon Lord. When Red intervenes, Ares smacks him against the wall, but an enraged Rudy stabs Ares. Shazanda, who is disguised as the adventurer Bui, watches from the shadows. He approaches Ares and suggests they join forces to find the first hero relic and convince Rudy to join them again. While Bui is leading Ares toward the hero relic, he recalls the first time when he laid eyes on Rudy. He believed they could conquer the world together. Meanwhile, Tis senses Ares moving with someone shielded by magic, so Red decides they can't wait any longer and must stop him. On the other side, Danon, Theodore, and Albert enter the ruins, and Danon uses all of his strength to break open the door to the relic room and finds Ares and Bui together. He attacks Bui, who dodges the sword, but Danon follows up with a powerful punch, and then strikes Bui with his dragon tail fist and throws him several feet away. As Danon continues to attack him, Ares uses his storm javelin, and Bui seizes the opportunity to stab him and unleash burst magic. Despite this, Danon's strong body withstands the burst, but now Bui transforms into his true form, the mighty Azura Shazandan, and attacks Danon with 6 arms and swords. Danon manages to dodge most, but the last one stabs him and he collapses. Ares feels a twinge of guilt for betraying another comrade, but continues with Shazandan on their quest for the first hero relic. Shazandan uses his power and a crystal to open the vault, which has a golden box with many swords, but one is missing. Ares fears that someone has stolen the Holy Demon Slayer's sword, but Shazandan explains that none of these swords are real Demon Slayer swords, and not even the one with Rudy, and Rudy's soul is merely a replica of the first hero's soul. He tells Ares to do 2 things to bring Rudy back. Firstly, give her one of these swords to cleanse her body of the drug's effects and remove her reason for quitting as a hero, so Ares decides he must kill Red to bring Rudy back. Meanwhile, Red and his team search for Shazandan, and Rudy gives Red the Thunderwalker sword, and as the door opens, they see a demon in the form of Rit's master, but Rit attacks it, and it reveals the demon's true form as Azura Shazandan. Ares tries to stop them with paralyzing flames, but Rudy shields Red and Rit with her sacred magic. She then confronts Ares and they unleash their full power, and then Rudy uses her whirlwind ability to destroy Ares and Shazandan's weapons. Suddenly, Tis warns them of something coming from below, and suddenly Theodora emerges and attacks Rudy, while claiming that she must be sacrificed to save the world, as her quitting would endanger it. A trapped Rit shouts that a hero has the right to choose their own path. Meanwhile, Ares attacks Red, and Rudy rushes to save her brother and strikes Theodore with her sword. Shazandan attacks too, which causes Red, Rudy, and Rit to disappear, leaving Tis alone with Ares. A bleeding Tis declares that Rudy is just an ordinary girl and vows to protect her cherished friend from Ares, so he mocks her and crushes her pet spider underfoot. Meanwhile, Rit and Red are trapped in a falling box, but a healed Danon saves them with his dragon power, and Red confronts Ares again and attacks while Ares tries to retaliate, but he cannot because Tis's pet tricks Ares with its cobwebs, allowing Red to strike and sever Ares' arms and kills him. Meanwhile, Rudy battles Shazandan and uses her new devil blessing, but she unknowingly grabs one of the Avenger's swords from the hero's relic and kills Shazandan. In his dying moments, Shazandan is satisfied that he made the hero hold the Avenger's sword, which will cleanse her body of the powerful drug. Red attempts to heal Theodore when Rudy emerges from the ground and she seems different. She suddenly attacks Red, but Tis stops her and reminds Rudy that Red is someone very precious to her. In a trance, Rudy attacks Red and cracks his Thunderwalker sword, but Red uses his simple bronze sword and manages to throw the Avenger's sword out of her hands, and suddenly Rudy comes back to her senses. Red goes close to him and she bursts into tears and hugs him. A worried Rit says that she can't heal Tis, so Rudy goes closer to heal her, but she cannot because she is unable to channel her blessings, while blaming herself for brutally slaying her close friend. But a slightly healed Theodore offers to help and uses her magic to heal Tis, and tells Rudy that she had no choice but to stop Rudy from quitting, but she knows that the path of a hero is very lonely and cruel fate and asks Rudy to strike her down because she betrayed her by attacking her before. But Albert intervenes and appreciates Theodore for all the great work she has done and asks for forgiveness on behalf of her. Now Tis is also healed, and a teary Rudy apologizes to her and then declares that she will live as a normal girl Rudy and bestows the responsibility on Theodore, calling her a true hero. Red says that a true hero never feels lonely, and Theodore expresses her desire to become a guide just like Red. After a few months, it's snowing and Zoltan and Red comes out of the shop to see Rudy and Tissy. A curious Rudy, experiencing a normal life for the first time, tries catching snowflakes while she keeps sneezing, so Red puts his coat on her shoulders and asks them to join for breakfast. Rudy is now blessed with New Truth, which has a powerful skill called Ruler, which can dominate other blessings, and she is using it to suppress her hero's blessing. She tells them that she is looking for a farm to grow herbs with Tissy. Then they go to Ares' funeral, and after that they are in the church premises when Danon says that he is confused why Shazaman had the holy swords, and Red agrees, saying that the holy swords are meant to slay the demon lord and one of them is missing, so there are just 5 of them, and if a past hero took one, then the numbers add up to 6, which is the same number as Azura Demon's arms. At night, Rid expresses her fear of losing Red, and she is scared that Red might leave this place to guide someone else with his blessing and wouldn't need her anymore, but Red assures her that he will always need her because she makes him happy. Red and Rit continue living their happy domestic life while Rudy has transformed into a typical town girl and works as Zoltan's new B-rank adventurer while lending a hand to her brother too. The 3 of them and Tissy live as one big happy family while enjoying their laid-back lifestyle. At a faraway kingdom, Theodore enters a castle with a man named Iljubo and sees a young boy dressed as a knight with the sacred Avenger sword. Iljubo introduces her as their new comrade, and Theodore goes on to introduce herself with a different name, Esta, who defeated the general of the Demon Lord's army, and he gladly accepts to work with her, and together they form a new party. On the other hand, the elf Yandrala arrives in Zoltan with Godwin, and they inform the suspicious guard at the entrance that they are adventurers who wish to meet their friends. Meanwhile, Rudy, Red, Rit, and the weapon maker Mogrim are on a hiking adventure to the mountain range known as the Wall at the World's End, and Rudy is thrilled since it's her first non-fighting journey. They sit under a tree for a break, and it turns out that they're searching for a blue sapphire for an engagement ring Red plans to give to Rit, and Mogrim teases the couple but reveals he's accompanying them to find a rare earth crystal to craft a knife for his pregnant wife's surgery because the crystal's sharpness will make the surgery painless. As they continue walking, Rit senses danger and asks them to stop, and Red realizes they're about to be attacked by a horde of goblins that steal from travelers. They skillfully fend off the goblins, and after the fight, Rudy asks Red if she was right to abandon her life as a hero, and Red agrees and says that she's regained her true life, but Rudy recalls Shinsenen's last words that the god and humankind will never let a hero live peacefully, and she worries that it may come true. Meanwhile, Yandrala and Godwin arrive at Red's shop but find it empty, and suddenly, the guard from the entrance gate rushes toward them and identifies Godwin as a traitor who escaped prison. Believing Godwin betrayed Red, Yandrala attacks him using her power of trees. However, Tiss arrives to help Godwin, but they struggle against Yandrala's massive tree dragon monster. When an old lady freezes the dragon with magic, and Godwin identifies her as Miss Mistram, who is Zoltan's former mayor. Yandrala soon traps Tiss with tree roots and demands to know who she is, so Tiss explains that she's a friend of Rit and Red, and that they've gone to the mountains to fetch a gemstone for Rit's engagement ring. When Yandrala learns they are seeking a gemstone for Rit's engagement ring, she releases Tiss and is happy that Red and Rit have grown close as she hoped. Meanwhile, at the mountains, Red encounters the kingdom of Zoogs, and Mogrim says that they are man-eating monsters, but Red reassures him, saying that he is friends with the Zoog elder. Soon, the elder greets them, and Red gives him a sack of ham and asks about the gem giants, but the elder warns them that the giants have been acting strangely. Suddenly, a Zoog toddler falls from a tree, and Rit notices the tree's poor condition and asks Red to prepare fertilizer, and at night as Red makes fertilizer, he tells Rit that the new truth blessing inside her, his sister, might not come from the god, but from within Rudy, and he promises to always stand by Rudy always. Elsewhere, Yandrala and Tiss are on their way to find Red, but Yandrala senses something wrong with the plant life, and they set up a tent to spend the night. Yandrala asks why Tiss is accompanying her, so Tiss lies by saying that she wanted to see the hot springs, but the truth is that she's concerned about Yandrala's reaction when she learns that Rudy gave up being a hero. Yandrala says she joined the hero party because of her dear friend Red and is glad he's alive. She then starts talking about the time when there were only 6 of them fighting against the mighty demon army, and it was a huge burden on the hero to carry every responsibility. Hearing this, Tis hints to her about Rudy by asking if it's okay for a hero to give up, and Yandrala quickly picks up on things, saying that she knows that Rudy is also there with Red and Rit. The next day, on a mountain cliff, Red reassures Rudy she should live as she wishes, promising to always support her. They see Tis approaching, followed by Yandrala, and upon seeing Red, Yandrala sheds tears of joy and hugs him tightly. They all are sitting together to have Yandrala's tea, and it's a happy reunion, but suddenly Yandrala asks them to move in with her to the kingdom of Kiraman, where friends never betray each other, and this is because she feels furious that both Red and Rit are betrayed by their friends and families and wishes to protect them. Rit and Red thank Yandrala for her concern, but say that they love living in Zoltan, and Red says that he has great friends too. Hearing this, Yandrala gets a bit upset, but they invite her to spend some days in Zoltan, and to ease the tension, Tis takes all the ladies for a hot spring bath. While bathing, Yandrala hugs Rudy and tells that she is happy for her, and they see the gem giant civilization not far away, and Rudy informs them that they gain energy from cutting gems. After some time, when Yandrala and Rit leave the bath, Tis asks Rudy if she is fine with her brother getting married, and she replies that Rit is a kind girl who will treat her brother well, and Rudy will continue being Red's first lover. And hearing Rudy's unconventional talks, Tis is shocked beyond her wits. After some time, they reach the Gem Giants civilization, but they feel that something seems wrong with the upset giants. They visit their leader, who sadly says that he doesn't have anything to offer them. Red tells them that they are here to trade gems with them and gives them Zoltan's glass, which is famous far and wide. The leader is happy to see the present, but sadly replies that they have no gems to offer in exchange. Red sees one of the Gem Giant kids looking at the glass longingly, so he gives it to him, and the boy proceeds to cut it and gain energy from it. Seeing this, Red tells the leader to accept more glasses from them without worrying about compensating them, and soon they give the remaining glasses to the giants, who continue to cut them and gain energy from them, since they were starving for days without gems. Seeing that Red helped them during testing times, the leader promises to them their unchangeable friendship until the end. Later, they sit together with the giant leader to discuss the problem, and he tells them that a strange monster called Gem Beast has started to live nearby, which consumes all their minerals and turns it into poisonous lead with magic. Seeing the poisonous lead, Yandrala concludes that this is the reason why groundwater is also polluted, causing the weakening of Zoo's forests. Red decides to fight the beast, but the giant leader warns them, saying that it's highly unlikely that they will come back alive, but Red decides to go ahead. They embark on their journey to find the Gem Beast and see that there are areas where gems are still visible, and while they are investigating, the Power Gem monster shoots a fireball towards them, and suddenly the ground starts trembling and a giant Gem Beast laden with many gems emerges out of it. As soon as it tries to attack, Rudy blocks it with her sacred shield, but the shield shatters. But soon, Yandrala activates her thorn-blind power that binds the beast with tree roots. However, nothing happens. They all come to and fighting together, but nothing seems to harm the magnanimous beast, and Red wonders about his vulnerable point. Rudy keeps protecting everyone with her sacred shield, and she tells everyone that the monster keeps copying their magic spells. Then the monster attacks them with both fire and water magic simultaneously, and soon it dawns upon Red and Rudy that the monster is using its multiple blessings to boost its physical abilities, which helps it support its massive weights and reflect physical and magical attacks. Red says that lowering its blessing level will help, and this can be done with Elves' medicine that Red gave to Edemy to suppress the effect of demon blessing drug. So Yandrala takes the charge and binds the beast with her tree dragon magic, and then Rit goes on to drop the bottle in its mouth. As soon as it starts affecting the beast, it becomes weak, and with a final blow, Rudy kills it. The demon leaves behind tons of minerals, and Mogrim the weapon maker could find an earth metal for his wife, and together they return home, and Yandrala declares that she will also try spending some time in Zoltan, and they should go prepare for her welcoming party. Theodore visits Albert and asks him to call her Esta here, and when he asks if the new hero rumor is true, she tells him that Van might be the new hero because the saint appraised him and the church leadership has recognized him too, but he is nothing like Rudy. Theodore asks Albert to visit Zoltan and tell Red about Van coming to look for the demon airship that Rudy has taken, and if he comes across Rudy, the consequences will not be favorable, and Albert agrees to go. Meanwhile, in Zoltan, it's the day of the festival, and Gonz's wife now visits the shop early to get some energy tonic, and later Red and Rit get ready to visit the festival. The streets are bustling with people and sellers, and they come across a happy Gonz and Tanta, and Gonz is drinking his heart away, and together they persuade Red to take a day off tomorrow because no one works after the festival, and a reluctant Red finally agrees in seeing them. Rudy and Tis also decide to take a leave next day, and Red sighs, saying that slow-paced Zoltan will turn them all lazy. Later they visit Zefsana, and everyone is in a festive mood there, but suddenly Red hears a commotion outside the shop. He goes out to check and finds that a man and a boy are fighting over going in first. In a fit of anger, the boy hurls a bottle of wine towards the man, but Adami catches it midway and apologizes to man on his behalf, saying that the boy is aggressive because his blessing has awakened recently, and the startled boy apologizes to the man too. After seeing this, Rit says that Adami has turned into a fine young man, and soon an excited Yandrala joins them. Together, they go to their usual food stall, and the elf girl there gets nervous on seeing Yandrala because she is a special elf which belongs from the kingdom of Kiraman, but Yandrala asks her to treat her like any other elf, and together, they have a hearty meal. Later, on their way to watch the grand finale, they come across Godwin and Miss Mistram, the old lady who is the ex-mayor, and seeing them, Godwin tries to run away, but the ex-mayor grabs him, asking him to act like the representative of Zoltan and not a coward. When Yandrala asks what kind of representative he is, and Red replies that he will take care of the trade for the Zoogs they met before. The grand finale is starting soon, so they go towards the stage where a knight is trying to aim at another man dressed as a winter monster as a traditional roleplay in Zoltan. And soon the winter monster removes his mask to reveal their dear friend Danon. Later, everyone is having their best time dancing, and Red and Rit are dancing together. Tis starts walking and overhears a bunch of men laughing and joking about an airship in Zoltan. Meanwhile, Rit gestures to Red to ask Rudy for a dance too, so he goes to ask her, and an overjoyed yet hesitant Rudy takes his hand, and they dance together, but Rudy seems a bit worried and asks Red if she is allowed to be this happy, and Red replies that it's fine after she endured so much pain alone. Back in the mysterious kingdom where Theodore and Albert are living, Theodore is with the Ljubo, and he asks Theodore for her impression of Van, as she replies that Van is growing stronger at a good rate, but sending him to Zoltan is a waste of time. Ljubo says that they would have to act on the information they have received about the airship there, and he is counting on her for her support. Meanwhile, deep at night at Zoltan, Tis is running after two suspicious men, but she isn't able to catch them because another stranger hidden in a cape throws a dagger towards her and stops her from chasing the men, but Tissy seems to recognize him. In the morning, Rudy wakes up and feels happy to experience an ordinary human life by doing simple chores, but while bathing, she notices a sad Tis looking through the window. Later, Tis tells her that she's not good enough to work on the herb field, but Rudy reassures her that it's better to work together, while explaining that growing herbs serves the purpose of helping his brother and doing something that doesn't require her fighting skills. When Rudy tries to ask her about last night, Tis changes the subject and points to a dying herb and suggests they ask Red for help, and Red diagnoses the problem as cold mold and helps them make a chemical to spray in Rudy's field. While talking to Tis, he feels that something is going on between the two, but he is sure that they'll be fine. The next morning, Rudy wakes up early and asks Tis about her plans, but Tis has none, so Rudy takes her for breakfast at Red's place. Then they share a bath, and while bathing, Rudy hints to her about an important task, but Tis is clueless about it. They visit Zoltan's local market, where Rudy effortlessly tames a wild drake while leaving the townspeople in awe of her, and then they reach a beautiful open space and stop at a field. Rudy tells the farmer there's a monster underground and punches the ground, and a huge man-eating earthworm emerges from the ground, but Rudy skillfully cuts it into two, and the farmers recognize her as the great adventurer of Zoltan. Rudy then takes Tis to the theater, where Tis wonders about the plan Rudy hinted at earlier, and suddenly Rudy appears on stage while confronting the main actor, who is possessed by the devil of arts. She kills the devil with ease and keeps on drawing more attention. In the evening, they sit down to eat at their usual elf girl food stall, and Rudy tells Tis that the day was important to her, but Tis is still unsure why, so Rudy asks if something is bothering her, to which Tis admits she's worried about Rudy's strange behavior. Rudy sighs and explains that her plan to spend the day with Tis, have her favorite dish, and listen to her vent didn't go as planned. She expresses frustration that Tis always has to clean up her messes, but Tis is touched by the fact that Rudy's care for her tells her she's grateful to have her. Meanwhile, the strange men Tis was chasing the other night are near the airship, and they are writing an investigation report. Their leader, who is the man in a cape, and orders them to delete any information about Tis, but when they refuse, he kills them and says that for him, avenging Tis is more important than the church's orders. He sends off unknown information via a messenger crow and tears the report in half. Later that night, Tis visits the airship and encounters the man in the cape, who she recognizes as Kigith Viper, who was her fellow trainee from the Assassin Guild. He asks her to join him since he killed his allies because they were interfering with his plan to battle her. Tis said that she will fight with him, and with the help of her pet spider, she scars his eye, but he attacks again with fireballs and Tis collapses. As he approaches her in the dark, Tis suddenly comes from behind and stabs him. Kigith pleads for his life and discloses information about Ljubo of the church, who wants the airship, and after revealing Ljubo's plans, he dies. The next morning, Tis and Rudy bury Kigith, and Rudy promises to always stand by Tis even if she is from the Assassin Guild, because she will always be her best friend. Meanwhile, in the other kingdom, Ljubo grumbles about not receiving information from Kadif and plans to meet Prince Van to go to Zoltan together. At night, Rudy and Tis visit Red and ask him about Cardinal Ljubo and informs that he is looking for a demon airship and Red knows who Ljubo is. The next day, Red and Rit read about masked knight Escarlata who defeated the general of the demon army, and they wonder under whom she works. Then Rit asks Red if it's fine giving away the airship to the church, and Red replies that they'll take better care of it, but if they misuse it then they'll stop them, but for now their priority is that no one finds Rudy. Later, Red visits Rudy's farms and informs them that the herbs are free from cold mold, and he will buy their first harvest for his pharmacy and also help Rudy and Tis expand their sales. On his way back, he meets Danon, who looks in good shape, and asks Red to return with him to massacre Demon Lord army. But Red declines, and Danon says that before bidding him goodbye, he wants him to spar with him, and Red agrees. Later, he practices at home, but realizes that he has become slow and lost his touch. Red and Red see Yandrala running towards them, and she already knows that Red will spar with Danon, so she asks him to practice with her to regain his combat skills. But when Ritz says that Yandrala is a spirit mage, she tells Rit that she is the founder of the famous Lotus-style staff technique, leaving Rit in awe, and together they leave for the training camp, and later Rudy, Tis, and Danon also join them. Rudy is excited because she will get to train with her first teacher, Red. They reach the camping site, set their tents, and eat lunch before training, and Danon says that the masked knight Escarlata that is mentioned in the newspaper is surely their comrade Theodore, because no one can surpass her in being the best general in the continent, and Red adds that the man accompanying her is surely Albert, who has a prosthetic arm. Danon remembers that Albert was the one who healed him when they were at the Elven ruins fighting heirs in Shizandin, and he plans to meet Theodora immediately after leaving Zoltan, and would join her to defeat the water general. Later, Rudy and Tis leave them to carry on with their business while the rest of them continue training together. Later, Danon tells Red that his swordplay makes his foe visible, and that makes his tactics adaptable, and sparring with him will be fun. At night, Red talks about Danon's invincible strength with Rit and tells her that he is a great warrior. Next day, Red and Danon are ready to spar, and Yandrala casts her merciful spell on them to prevent them from being injured. They start fighting, and Red skillfully keeps blocking his attacks, but Danon warns him that since Red is able to predict all his attacks, he won't go easy on him now, and he will fight with all his strength. Saying this, he charges towards Red, and after a few attacks and dodges, Red is defeated by Danon's direct attack, and Danon helps him stand up, saying that he is really strong and his swordplay still makes him the best fighter he has ever met, and he will always respect him despite Red choosing a different path, and wishes him a happy life. That Rudy asks Danon to fight with him too, and an enthusiastic Danon is soon defeated by the mighty hero, and everyone bursts into laughter. When they return home, they are surprised to see Albert waiting for them. He respectfully greets Red and tells him that Theodore has currently adopted the name of Escarlata, and he has brought a message from her. He informs that a new hero has appeared, and he goes by the name of Van of Fornburg, and he is on his way to Zoltan to take the former Demon Lord's airship. Somewhere else, the new hero Van enters an inn and strikes down a person because he murdered someone in the inn, and hearing the commotion, Theodore enters and blames Van for killing someone without interrogation or capturing him alive. Van replies that it was needless because that person had wrongdoer blessing, but Theodore says that everyone is a human with free will, but Van says that by killing the wrongdoers, he makes offerings to the god Demis and hopes to become a powerful ruler. Suddenly, Ljubo enters and appreciates him for his act and asks him to leave for Zoltan with him. They are sitting together with Albert to learn more about the new hero, and Albert informs that the church has approved him and his guardian is Ljubo. Then Red wonders if the church already knew about the existence of two heroes, but Rudy said that since they didn't do anything about it, that probably means they didn't know. They learn from Albert that the church knows hardly anything about Rudy. Red says that since Rudy defeated 4 demons and Theodore defeated 1, the continent is in a state of stability. But if the church learns about the fact that Rudy was supposed to be the hero, but she gave up, then they will not sit silent. Yandrala suggests that they should leave Zoltan as long as Van and Ljubo are here for the airship, and she, with Tis, will take care of everything. Danon offers to stay in Zoltan for backup if something happens. They all go to a peaceful village called Durant, and Red briefs them about Durant, who saved the village by building houses for the villagers overnight after the attack of Hill Giant, and soon they see a funny statue of Durant. They rent a cottage, and Red and Rudy are sitting together when they hear a bell which declares the arrival of the hero. Van, and Rudy knows that her hero blessing will take her back to face the dangers. While returning home after dinner, they notice a girl who tells them about pain in her neck, so they take her to the cottage, and after learning the symptoms, Red concludes that it's because she was poisoned when she cut her foot accidentally at work, and they treat her with Red's medicine, and the grateful townspeople thank the trio. Later, they enjoy a warm bath and delicious food together, and Rit wonders about what would be happening in Zoltan. In Zoltan, Albert and Danon are keeping a check on Van and Ljubo's arrival, but Albert informs Danon that they haven't arrived yet. That evening, Van's ship arrives at Zoltan's port, and after arrival, Ljubo, Van, and Theodore go to Zoltan's church to look for a guide to take them to the airship, but they cannot find one, so Ljubo decides to make plans after moving into an inn. Meanwhile, in the village of Durant, Rit, Red, and Rudy are in the cottage when Tiss's pet spider comes to deliver a scroll with a message of Van's arrival, and no problem has been caused yet. At Zoltan, Ljubo, Van, and Theodore are at the town's hotel with higher-ups for a party, where Tiss has also taken up a job of a maid to gather information on them, but Van is in a terrible mood because he can't go to the airship until morning. Theodore takes Van outside and asks him to respect the people and express his gratitude because a hero has to lead people and stand against evil, so it's important to understand and respect people. But Van has a different ideology, and he believes that when the hero arrives, people should be courageous enough to fight and die for him, and this bewilders Theodore because she realizes that Van has no feelings for people who die. And Van clearly states his philosophy of martyrdom is faith and emotion is impurity. Soon Ljubo arrives and he tells them that they'll leave to search for the airship tomorrow morning, but before that they have to kill the salt dragon on a nearby island, but Theodore interrupts and says that salt dragons are harmless as long as people don't go close to them. Ljubo says that killing the dragon will enhance Van's blessing, and also the Fairy King's treasure was stolen by Salt Dragon. Theodore warns them again that they'll make unnecessary enemies if they fight recklessly, but nonetheless the next day Van kills the giant dragon and they take back the Fairy King's shield that was stolen by the dragon. In the morning, Rit and Red are waiting to hear some news about Zoltan, and he notices Rudy looking at the bees, and he tells her a few facts about bees. Soon they hear kids counting, and when the three go to check, they see that the kids are training to level up their blessings. Rit joins to train them. Meanwhile, Red tells them about their individual blessings, and excited kids surround him. Soon a man comes running and anxiously tells them to head back to the cottage because an ogre king has entered the village, but the three assure him that they'll look out for it. They are in the woods looking for the ogre king, and suddenly they notice patches of crumpled grass, and they realize that the ogre is deliberately walking on grass to avoid leaving footprints. After investigation, they announce in the village that there are at least 20 to 30 ogres, and Rit and Red will take care of them, and Rudy will protect the villagers. On the other hand, in Zoltan, Tiss reports to Yandrala that the new hero is too different from Rudy, and he is very expressive, unlike Rudy, who couldn't express herself because of her hero blessing, so it's not a good idea to hand over the ship to them. Then Yandrala tells her that the plants seem to be in constant threat ever since the new hero has arrived, and it seems like something more dangerous has entered into Zoltan with him. Meanwhile, Van, his fairy friend, and Theodore are in the streets, and the people of Zoltan are welcoming them, and suddenly a goblin kid holds onto Van's leg, and Tanta immediately apologizes for it, but Van doesn't seem to mind and agrees to spend time with them. So they all go to Zoltan Church, where the priest thanks him for spending time with the lost and orphaned children, and when Van goes to visit their room, Theodore apologizes to the ex-town mayor for Van's unruly behavior at the town lunch the previous night. Meanwhile, Van is talking with the kids about their blessings, and Tanta tells him that he wishes to be the carpenter and enjoy small joys of life, but Van disagrees with him and says that it will not bring him joy because he's not working according to Lord Demis's wish. After saying this, he decides that he will change the mindset of Zoltan's people. In Village Durant, Red and Rit are on a lookout for ogres, and Red tells her that they will defeat their ogres no matter what, because if they fail, the news will reach Zoltan and the new hero will come to the village to take things in his hands. Suddenly, an ogre attacks Red and tackles it, but soon many ogres start emerging, and each has multiple blessings ranging from martial arts to magic, but the couple manage to kill each of them. Red sits down to see that ancient elves' writing which he saw at elven ruins is engraved on them, and Rit reminds him of the gem beast who too had multiple blessings, and Red concludes that the gem beast and the ogres are linked to the ancient elven ruins. At Zoltan, Van leaves the church after spending time with the kids, and while they're leaving, the old ex-mayor asks Theodore to be the hero's guide and take him to the right path, and later Van tells Theodore that the children have not awakened their blessings, so they should be protected until then. Soon Ljubo joins them with Tiss, whom he has brought as guide to reach the airship, and apart from Theodore, nobody knows who Tiss actually is. At night in Durant, while bathing together, Rudy congratulates Rit for her engagement with her brother and says that she will be very happy to see the two of them getting married, and a happy Rit says that along with Red, she will also be on Rudy's side. Later, they receive another message from Tiss's pet saying that Van is going to fight Dantak, the hill giant is going and Tiss is guiding them, but Rit is worried that if Van comes to know about Tiss's real identity, he will consider her as an enemy. Hearing this, Rudy tells Tiss's pet to inform her if Tiss is in danger, and she will go against everyone to save her friend. Van reaches the hill giant Dantak and blames him for going against Lord Dimis by not killing humans even though it's a monster. Dantak is furious at Van's absurd words, and before it can react, Van cuts its head with its sword and kills it. Later, by the campfire, Theodora and Tissi sit together to have dinner and recall their memories of having food together in the past, and when Tiss mentions that Albert is fond of Theodora, she can't believe her ears but agrees that she misses him too, and then gets flustered. Meanwhile, at Durant, Red, and Rudy are having delicious curry bread when they see a group of Pegasus flying in the sky, and soon Rudy senses that something is coming. On the other hand, Theodora tells Van to seal the Fairy King's shield because it has the power to manipulate the mind, but Van doesn't listen to her, saying that if it's in the hands of a righteous person like him, he can lead the wicked to death. Meanwhile, the town of Zoltan is arranging for a party to officially hand over the airship to Van, and suddenly Van arrives and everyone cheers for his team, but Van rudely dismisses them, saying that he doesn't need a celebration. When the mayor says that he prays to Lord Demis for their success, Van declares that their prayers won't reach Demis, and everyone gasps in bewilderment. And then Van goes to the extent of calling them unbelievers because they live a slow life and don't follow the role given to them by God Demis, and then he hits them with another blow by saying that they should join him to fight the demon army as a sacred duty to fight alongside the hero. He asks them to abandon their country, and seeing that things are going to be bad, Tiss gestures to her pet to send a message to Red. The mayor furiously replies that Zoltan is the land of their grandparents for which they worked so hard, and it's outrageously rude of the hero to ask them to abandon it. Sensing that no one is going to follow him, Van tries to force them with his sword, but Theodore and an old ex-mayor block him, but Van's fairy companion Velvet activates her powerful magic on them, and Van uses the Fairy King's shield to manipulate the townspeople's minds to follow him in battle. But before the shield could activate, Yandrala uses her magic to trap Van and declares that he is the villain for using mind manipulation magic. Enraged that Yandrala called him a villain, he attacks her with the sword, but Danon comes to her rescue and kicks Van into the forest. Van comes to attack them again, but this time Yandrala pierces his eye with her thorn magic, but he uses the reverse healing to transfer the wound to Danon, but Yandrala heals him. Van declares that he can regenerate his own wounds with his opponents, but Danon says that he cannot call himself a hero by giving pain to others. Suddenly, the group of Pegasus that Red saw earlier come to attack Van, and they are the Salt Dragons who are here to take revenge on Van, but Yandrala shields him from their attack. The ungrateful Van says that the Salt Dragon attack should destroy Zoltan, so that the people are motivated to fight against the demon army, and this infuriates Danon, who lands a huge blow on Van, but he uses his reverse technique to injure him. But soon Red comes to their rescue. He snatches the shield from Van and gives it back to the Salt Dragon, who warns him to be careful of the new hero. Red continues to block Van and reminds him that his stubborn ideology is making him lonely, and suddenly Rudy comes from behind and punches Van with her incredible power. Van begins to lose consciousness while he keeps thinking about Rudy, but soon Theodore heals him, and he wakes up to say that he will kill Rudy and become the next hero, and starts laughing maniacally. The hero party sits together to think of ways to get rid of Van without much damage, and Albert briefs them about Van's background. He is the 8th Prince of Flamberg, raised in a monastery, and then he went to Great Holy Fortress, where he claimed himself to be the hero and was recognized by the church. He kept hunting the monsters to raise his level and lost many friends because of his stubborn ideology. Rudy says that Van's world is very small, consisting of God himself with no friends and loved ones and his fairy companion. Lavender is someone powerful too. Red volunteers to negotiate with Lavender, and Red asks Danon to accompany her, and he will go negotiate with Ljubo. Albert explains that Lil Ljubo was born a commoner and rose in level and is corrupt too. Red says that he will disguise himself, and Rudy will follow him along with Tiss, and they'll do anything to protect Zoltan and Rudy. Later, Tiss visits Red, and they talk about how different Rudy and Van are poles apart. On one hand, where Rudy doesn't only depend on her blessing, but Van totally depends on them. Similarly, Rudy never gets defeated, but Van only aims to win. And Van's blind belief in his blessing is his weakness. Now Van is back in town again, and this time Ljubo orders Theodore to get information on the Rudy, and meanwhile an anxious town committee decide on letting Red deal with Van and his team. Van and his team check into a hotel, and Theodore introduces him to Albert. Then Van goes to take some rest, and Lavender sees Rit and Danon from Van's window and goes to confront them. Rit tells Lavender that she has a fearsome blessing in her little body, and she is a giant with a wild force, and she's become a fairy to hide her fierce face because she's in love with Van. Hearing the truth about herself, a furious Lavender gets ready to attack them, but Rit yells and says that she is in love too and wishes to talk to her. Later at a cafe, Rit and Lavender talk about what love means to them. Rit realizes that Lavender doesn't wish Van to change, and she warns her that Van might die if he keeps being reckless, but Lavender says that she will die with him. Then Rit asks Lavender for a favor for Van's sake and asks her to tell Van to stay away from Zoltan because the fight here is not worth risking his life for, and Lavender agrees. Meanwhile, Red goes to Uljubo and wins his trust by helping him win the bet in the dragon race and takes him to a wine place, and there he lies that Rudy is a dangerous girl who belongs to the ancient elf heritage, and to make him believe that he is saying the truth, he shows him the ancient elf writing on one of the Ober King he killed in Durant village, leaving Uljubo bewildered. Lavender, Van, and Uljubo are at Red's pharmacy, and Lavender menacingly asks her to give Theodora to them because she deserves punishment for betraying them. Now they are sitting in Red's shop, and Theodora tells Lavender that she is not the traitor because she approached Rit only to get information about Rudy, as Uljubo ordered her. Then Rit introduces Lavender and everyone to Red as her lover, and Van recognizes Danon and Red and asks why did he attack him when he was only doing the best for the people of Zoltan, but Red reminds him of his recklessness by using magic, making salt dragons attack the town. But Van continues being stubborn, so Red says that being a guy, he wishes to talk to him. When Van learns that Red has already fulfilled his role of the guide once, he says that now Red doesn't have anything left to live for, but Red replies that even after fulfilling his role as a guide, he is living a fulfilled normal life. They all are confused but leave Red's shop, promising to meet some other time. As they leave, a worried Tis asks if it's okay to let them leave in confusion, and Red replies that they have to change the way Van sees the world by negotiation, and they need to be careful while doing that. Red then goes to Rudy and tells that he won't visit her for some time because he can't risk exposing her identity to Lavender, and suddenly the Adventure Guild girl visits Rudy and tells her that someone accepted their herb collecting request. Red asks her about some interesting adventures, and she tells about appearances of some dangerous monsters. Later, Red is sitting with everyone with a pamphlet having information on the monster called Sea Boggies, which targets children, and Red decides to include Van too in the mission, and Red agrees. Next day, Van, Red, Rit, and Lavender go to the beach to tackle the Sea Boggies monsters, and while fighting, Van gets injured, and when Red asks him why he doesn't use defense, he stubbornly replies that offense is the best defense. After killing the monsters, Red goes in to tell Van that he killed 18 monsters, and it's important to keep a track because that'll help him track his contribution in big battles too. He asks him to try surpassing him in every way to become a complete hero. When they are about to return, Red informs them that there are more sea bogies and one of them has kidnapped a child. Red asks Van to follow the tracks, but he says that he doesn't have tracking skills, so Red and Rit take over. They reach the cave where sea bogies are, and Van goes on to attack them while Red keeps saving him, and then they decide to split and look for the kid. After some time, Van finds the scared kid, and she was on to hug Van for saving her. Later, when Theodora gets to know the entire story, she feels underconfident for not being able to guide Van for a long time, while Rit and Red did it so well in a short span, but Albert goes on to comfort her, saying that all this wouldn't have happened without her intelligence. Jubo explains to Van that Rudy is a humanoid weapon that is created in the Elven ruins, and since she is not a threat to humanity, he asks Van to return home, but he declines, saying that her hero blessing is forcing her to stay here and face Rudy. Meanwhile, the pharmacy Red asks Theodora about Van, and she says that he keeps himself locked in a room. Suddenly, Tis visits them and asks for their assistance to look for a missing kid in the forest, since she and Rudy can't do it because Van will find them, so Albert immediately offers to help. Later, Theodore visits Uljubo at a wine shop and asks him about Van, and he casually replies that he went off somewhere to look for a missing kid with Lavender. Meanwhile, Albert is in the forest where he killed an ogre, and accidentally he strikes a fairy dragon, and suddenly he sees the lost girl who yells at him for hurting her dragon, and Albert apologizes and gets ready to take her home. But he sees Van with an oppressive aura around him, and he says that he will kill the evil who lured the girl in the forest. A panicky Albert asks Van to calm down, saying that fairy dragons aren't malicious creatures and they're just like Lavender. Sensing that Van will not listen to him, he asks the girl to run back home with the fairy dragon and stands upright to face him because he can't let him take an innocent life. Van brutally strikes Albert and continues to hit him when Theodore attacks Van and breaks his armor while she goes on to heal Albert, and the furious Theodore continues to strike Van again, but Lavender stops her with her magic. Suddenly, Lavender loses one of her hands, and when Van looks for the source of the attack, he sees Rudy. On the other hand, Red treats Albert, and Rudy says that she had sensed some danger and came to their rescue. She says that she feels Van is out of control and can't fight emotionally. On the other hand, Van goes to Jubo and tells him that he will leave Zoltan, but before leaving, he will kill all the fairies, Esta, Red, and finally Rudy, and a scared Uljubo tries to stop him, but he stabs him straight through the heart, saying that he doesn't feel the impulses of hero blessing anymore, so he will kill Rudy to eliminate evil. Later, when Red is together with everyone, one of the fairies called Water Archfey tells them about Lavender's invincible power. She is the Archfey Ketu, who are avatars of destruction and power, and she is the sole survivor of Ketu. Seeing that a battle will happen sooner or later, Red says that he will take a chance and talk to Van to change his heart, and Rudy says that she will back up her brother. Suddenly, Van appears in front of Danon, Red, and Rudy and Archfey. Yandrala and Rit cast a dome around them to minimize the damage. Van says to Red that he will kill Rudy and gain her power to become the hero. However, Red says that he no longer knows what to do because his blessing has abandoned him. A frustrated Van yells and says that a hero never wavers from his goal, but Rudy calmly says that she did waver several times when she was the hero, especially when Red left the party, but still her party members never left her side. Then Red asks Van to allow him to guide Van and throws at him his bronze sword, asking Van to use it, and says that they'll fight until one of them goes down and agrees. Van runs towards Red with the bronze sword and activates his martial arts swallow technique to strike Red, but Red hits his head. Meanwhile, Rit is blocking Lavender from helping Van. An angry Lavender transforms into her true form, but Danon comes before Rit to protect her from her ferocious lightning and thunder that slowly envelops the shield created by Theodore and Yandrala. Red breaks Van's sword, and to save him, a fierce Lavender goes on to attack Red, but Rudy blocks her with her sacred shield and strikes her down with her incredible power. Meanwhile, Van activates his whirlwind technique, which forcefully breaks Red's sword and the shield. Red kneels on the ground, defeated, and Van touches him to use his regenerate power to hurt him more, but nothing happens because before the battle, Rudy had given him a charm with her magic. Red uses that to strike Van, and he drops defeated on the ground. Then Red calmly tells him that he has not learned to accept the person he is because he just keeps focusing on his blessings, and that makes him reluctant to be grateful and ask for someone's help. Later, Van and Lavender are tied in a tree hole, and Red and Rit visit them. Red tells Van that he has been given emergency magical healing, and a guilty Van asks about Ljubo and Albert, and Red assures him that they're fine. Then Red asks Rit to take Lavender away so he can talk in private with Van. He asks Van about his blessing, and he replies that it's fine and he won't hurt anyone again. Then Red unties him and tells him that a hero is not made with blessing alone, but a hero is someone who acts like one, which means Van should accept advice. He can worry and waver, but still try to be a hero. He asks him to understand his emotions and accept that he is a human before anything, and when he will make friends and trust people, he can give more power to his sword and become a true hero. He also asks him to trust Est, and when Van asks him to be his guide, he declines because he is already Rudy's guide. Then he asks Van about the time when his power changed, and he replies that originally he had cardinal power like Ljubo, but it suddenly changed one day, and Van believed that he has to give up everything to become a hero. Red asks him if he will leave Zoltan immediately. He replies that he will consult his party members first, showing that he has changed a lot. He goes on to thank Lavender for always being by his side. Later, Theodore visits Ljubo, and he tells her that Van had apologized to him, and Theodore replies that he has done that to Albert and Mayor too, and everyone is surprised by his change of heart. Ljubo tells Theodore that he has recognized her. Later, Van apologizes to Tanta and the children too for not understanding their emotions, and soon the children call him to play with them. At night, while Red is tending herbs, Lavender visits him and says that she hates him for hurting Van and kicks his face, but soon she drops a blue sapphire in his palm and arrogantly thanks him for looking after Van. When Red asks how she got it, she replies that while drinking with Rit, she found that he is looking for a blue sapphire for her engagement ring, so she asks for fairies to fetch one, and then she goes to join Rit for drinks. Later, Red goes to the weapon maker Mongrim with the sapphire, and he immediately rushes to make a ring for him. A few days later, Red proposes to Rit, and they both get married and throw a lavish party for everyone. Rudy tells Red that she is overjoyed to see him living a happy life, and while they all are enjoying the party, Red looks at Van and realizes that the journey of a hero is full of difficulties, but he is relieved that Van has the courage to fight.